Good day everyone, I am Nasrani G. Malang from Group 11. So today we are going to tackle about the group of social environment. So ano nga po ba si group? So groups are aggregate or categories of people who have a consciousness of membership and of interaction. So yung mga members dito is meron talagang something na common sila, and they believe what they have in common makes a difference sa group na yan. So si group, ito na yung mga tao, it's a collection of people that interact with each other, and they share a common identity, and in that way they have something in common that they believe that it makes a difference sa kanila, and they also have a sense of belonging, and work together para ma-achieve yung goals na meron yung group nila. So para mas maintindihan natin, one of the example is a group of friends who meet regularly para maglaro ng basketball. So because of that game, they share the same interest in that sport, and nafe-feel nila na belong sila sa group na yan because of those interaction na nangyayari sa group nila. So now let's proceed naman kay social group. So it is a unit of interacting personalities with the interdependence of roles and statuses existing between and among themselves. So it is a collection of people who interact with each other by the position they occupy in the society. So si social group, ito na yung mga tao na nag-interact with each other, and they depend on each other because of their roles na ginagampanan sa society. So example nito is team sports. For example, basketball. So di ba kada player doon is may role, and because of their role they work together to win. Another is a family. Merong parents, siblings, and those roles kailangan na magampanan para mag-work si family. Now let's proceed naman sa mga tao na binigyan ng definition si social group. So we have 3, and the first one is si William. So according to him, social group is a given aggregate of people playing interrelated roles and recognized by themselves or others as a unit of interactions. So sabi niya, si social group daw is grupo ng mga tao na always nagkakaroon ng interaction with each other, and feel nila na connected sila. And because of that, they have sa group nila may specific roles or responsibilities na ginagampanan sa grupo nila. And dahil doon mas nag-work together yung group na meron sila. The next one is kay Horton and Hunt. So according sa kanya, si social groups are aggregate or categories of people who have a consciousness of membership and of interaction. So sinabi niya na si group is a collection of people who know na belong sila sa group, and merong interaction na nangyayari sa group na yan. So the last one is si Ogburn and Ninkoff. So according sa kanya, whenever 2 or more individuals come together and influence one another, they may be said to constitute a social group. So sabi nga niya mafo-form si social group kapag merong dalawa or mas higit pa na tao na nag-interact and influence each other. For example, a family. So meron si parents, children, siblings na nag-interact, and therefore they influence each other, and matatawag natin siya na social group. Okay, so let's have groups in social work. So it refers to assemblies of individuals who come together to achieve shared goals, support each other, or address common issues. So according dito kay social work, si groups daw is a wide from therapeutic groups to task groups and serve as an essential mechanism for promoting individual well-being and social social functioning according kay Zastro 2019. So according kay Zastro, si social group daw is like a team where everyone has a role na ginagawa. So yung roles na yun is nakabase siya sa kung ano yung position ng tao na yan na meron siya sa society, like being a student, a teacher, or a parent. So kada role doon is dapat daw gampanan ng bawat isa para mag-work yung society. So people in a social group interact with each other because of these roles, and they depend on each other to make the group work. Kumbaga pa without these roles, hindi mag-work no kung ano yung meron sa isang grupo, kung hindi nila gagawin yung bawat responsibilidad na meron sila. So moving on to stages of group development. So we have 5, and number 1 is forming. So dito no, people join the group either because of a work. So they begin to define the group's purpose, structure, and leadership. So one of the example is a new team no in a company. A new team is formed at a company to develop a new product. So yung team nila is assigned sa isang project, and maybe they don't know each other well kasi nga bago pa lang. So the team leader outlines the product's goals and the deadlines. The team will discuss no how they will work together. Kumbaga no, dito pa nabubuo yung group nila, including roles and responsibilities, and they start to figure out who will take the lead in different areas. And there's a lot of uncertainty no about how the team will work, how well they get along, and if they'll be successful. Kumbaga pa no, they are figuring things out, but they are starting to come together as a group. So for the number 2, we have storming. So dito, nangyayari acceptance of the group's existence, conflict over who will control the group. For example, no, a new school club. So si members disagree on the club's activities, leadership, roles, and how decisions will be made. And some members might try to dominate, leading to conflict. So kumbaga pa no, dito kay storming, hindi pa masyado nila nakikilala yung bawat isa, yung hindi pa nila nagagama yung behavior, attitude ng bawat isa. That's why no, hindi pa sila nagkakasundo. Yung development na nangyari sa kanila is hindi pa ganun katibay para magkasundo no. The next one is norming. So pang third na to siya. So dito, relationships and the sense of group identity develop. Group assimilates a common set of expectations of what defines. So yung during this stage no, the group develops. So mas na-develop sila no, a stronger relationships, a shared identity, and agrees on how members should behave. So si team sisimula na no na ma-develop yung team spirit nila, and mas natututunan nila no na magtiwala sa bawat isa, wherein dahil doon no, mas nakilala nila yung bawat isa, and mas tumitibay yung relationship na meron sa team nila. So for our number 4, we have performing. So dito no, yung group structure nila is mas functional na and accepted na no ni group, and mas na-develop siya no na kung saan no mas nagkakasundo na sila para sa isang bagay or para sa isang decision no na gagawin ng group nila. So yung functions nila dito is accepted na nun ng bawat isa sa kanila. And bawat isa sa kanila is nakafocus na no sa pag-complete ng task ng group nila. So for example no, in a music band. So si band, nag-practice sila no, and alam nila kung yung bawat parts nila, and they can play together. Kasi nga no, they focus on delivering a great performance. Kumbaga pa, because they believe no na magagawa nila, kasi nga nagtulong-tulong sila, and they do their roles. About isa sa kanila, ginawa nila yung roles nila. Therefore, yung performance nila is maganda. So the last one is adjourning. So dito si group nagpe-prepare na no to this bond. The attention devoted to wrapping up activities, the group does not necessarily become more effective. So dito no si yung group effectiveness nila is a complex issue na, wherein naapektuhan nila no yung mga factors other than developmental stage. So dito no si group nagfo-focus na no on finishing or pagtapos no sa mga task nila, and dito na nangyayari no yung tatapos ng task na binigay sa kanila. So now let's proceed naman po no sa examples of groups in social work. So we have 5 no. First is therapeutic support groups. So these are vital for people facing challenges. For example, a group of people with anxiety might help them develop coping mechanisms and share experiences para matulungan sila. The next one is parenting groups. So these are invaluable for parents who need guidance and support. For example, no, a group for parents of teenagers might offer advice on communication and setting boundaries. And the next one is advocacy groups. And these are crucial for promoting social justice. For example, a group advocating for environmental protection might organize protests and lobby for policy changes. So the next one is community organizing groups. So itong group na to is empowering communities to address local issues. For example, a group working to reduce homelessness might organize food drives and advocate for affordable housing. And the last one is crisis intervention groups. And these group provide vital support during emergencies. Just for example, a group formed after a flood might offer shelter, food, and emotional support to affected residents. Now, let's proceed naman po kay group assessment tools. So, meron din po tayong 5 dito. And the first one is group dynamics observations. So, this is crucial no, for understanding how the group functions. For example po, a social worker might observe if certain members dominate discussions or if there's a lack of participation. So the next one is surveys and questionnaires. So these provide valuable feedback from group members. For example, a survey might ask group members about their satisfaction about the group's activities or any concerns they have. And the next one is focus groups. So these are great for in-depth discussions and understanding perspectives. So for example po, a focus group with parents might explore their experiences with a parenting program. Next naman po is genograms and echo maps. So these are visual tools no, to understand relationships and community dynamics. For example, a genogram could show the family relationships of members in a support group, while an echo map might illustrate the resources and challenges of a community. So the last one is group functioning scales. So this measure group cohesion communication, and overall effectiveness of a group. So for example, the Group Environment Scale or GES can help assess if a group is supportive, collaborative, and conflict-free. So for my last topic, which is social processes, these are the patterns of interaction that shape how we behave and relate to each other in the society. So dito, interactions daw are essential because without interaction, there would be no society. And si social processes din daw are repetitive because they are common patterns of behavior that we see in social life. It is also a goals and problem solving din daw. Kasi nga, si social processes are often about working together para ma-achieve yung common goals or address challenges na meron sa society. So, mag-proceed naman po tayo sa elements of social processes. So, first, we have sequence of events. So, meaning, social processes involve a series of actions and reactions. Next naman po is repetition of events, which means yung patterns of interaction sila tend to repeat over time. The next one naman po is relationships between events. The actions, which means the actions of one person or group influence the actions of others. The next one naman po is continuity of events, which means social processes often continue over extended periods. And the last one naman po is special social results, meaning social processes lead to particular outcomes or changes in the society. So we have examples of social processes. First is cooperation. So yung mga tao is nag-work together to achieve a common goal. Next is competition. So dito, yung mga tao or groups is striving for the same resources or awards para ma-achieve nila yung goal nila, like what I said kanina. So overall, si social processes are the foundation of the society. So they are the ways in which people interact, cooperate, compete, and shape the social world around them. So yung pag-intindi dito kay social processes is essential for social workers to effectively address challenges and empower individuals and communities. That's all po. Thank you.
Today, I'm Hasari Lucas. So, in my report, malalaman natin kung ano yung mga types of social group. So, first, sa number 1, meron tayong social ties. According kay Charles Horton Cooley, isang sociologist, ang group daw is nahati sa dalawa. So, meron tayong primary at secondary group. So, sa primary, this is a group where we have a close and personal relationship with others. May strong bonds, affection, and trust tayo with these people. So, dito sa primary, nabibilang yung close friends natin, yung family and relatives. So, yung interaction natin with these people is more on about personal feelings and walang another agenda. But it's a pure and a genuine interaction lang talaga with these people. So, in contrary naman dun sa primary, itong second group is more formal and may nakaset na goal kaya nagkakaroon ng interaction. Example, sa school, di ba kapag may group project tayo and of course, kailangan talaga nating mag-interact, kausapin, i-befriend yung ka-group natin so that mas madali and magiging smooth yung paggawa natin ng project with them. And then, dito sa secondary group, most of the time, yung relationship dito is temporary lang. Like, again, sa school, kapag hindi na kayo magkaklase, parang nawawala na yung bond. So, number 2, let's talk about the in-group, out-group, and reference group or psychological group. So, when we say in-group, it is a social group where a person feels a strong sense of belonging, identity, and connection. So, the member of an in-group often share similar values, beliefs, interests, which creates a feeling of unity and solidarity. So here, there is usually a mutual support and loyalty among members. And because of that, they often view themselves as part of a we. So a common example of this in-group is yung magbabarkada, yung mag-friends, and yung families. Meanwhile, here in out-group, the individual or an individual does not belong and may feel a sense of separation or difference. So the member of an outgroup are often seen as them rather than part of us. This distinction can lead to feeling of competition, misunderstanding, or even conflict between in-groups and out-groups. So example of this out-group is any group that has an opposing views to you. Lastly, let's talk about the reference group. So, reference group is a social group that is looked upon as an inspiration. So, even though an individual may not belong directly to the group, its values or standards influence their decisions and self-perception, consciously or unconsciously. So, example, someone aiming to become a successful entrepreneur might look up to well-known business leader as their reference group. So this group provides benchmarks or ideals that shape personal goals and aspirations. Here in number 3, let us know the special interest groups first. So this group are groups that formed by people who share a common interest or hobby. These groups exist to meet the specific needs or goals of their members. So they focus usually on a particular activity or passion that brings the members together. For example, a book club is a special interest group for people who loves reading and discussing book. So another example is a fitness group that is for those interested in health and exercises. So these groups give members a sense of community and an opportunity to enjoy their shared interest. So next is task group. So this is formed to complete specific tasks or projects that are too big or complex for one person to handle alone. So these groups are focused on achieving a clear goal and often exist temporarily until the job is done. An example is in school, a group of students assigned to work on a group project is a task group. And another example is in a workplace. So a team formed to plan and organize an event is another example. So task group rely on teamwork with collaboration and to accomplish their objectives effectively. So number 3, the influence or pressured groups. So these are an organizations that is formed to influence decisions, actions, and policies in society. So these groups aim to promote their beliefs, support causes, or create social change by applying pressure on governments, companies, or other institutions. So an example is environmental activist group like a Greenpeace campaign to encourage laws that protects the environment. Another example is groups advocating for human rights work to ensure equal treatment and justice for marginalized communities. So these groups are used to strategies like protests, petitions, or lobbying to achieve their goals. So number 4, we have the Gemeinschaft. So when we say Gemeinschaft, it means community. So this refers to a social system where relationships are personal, close, and based on tradition. In this type of community, individuals are connected through strong familial ties, deep personal bonds, and shared values. So the interactions are intimate, private, and often face-to-face. An example of Gemeinschaft includes small villages, families, or close-knit communities where everyone knows each other and their relationship are long-lasting and emotionally significant. So next we have the Gesellschaft or society. So this describes a more impersonal and formal type of social organization. So this is typically found in a larger, more complex societies. So in Gesellschaft, relationships are often based on self-interest and practical concerns, such as business or legal matters. People in Gesellschaft communities interact based on rules, contracts, and goals rather than personal feelings or traditions. An example of this is the cities, corporations, modern state systems, where individuals may not have deep personal connection, but instead it's more on a work together for mutual benefits or specific purposes. Now, lastly, and number 5, we have the formal groups, also known as social organizations. So these groups are intentionally created with specific goals, purposes, and objectives. So these groups have clearly defined roles, responsibilities, and a structured system where tasks are assigned based on the member's skills, abilities, or qualification. So an example of this formal group is the bureaucracy, which refers to an administrative structure used in organizations, governments, or companies to ensure order, efficiency, and clear processes. So next, we have the informal groups. So in these informal groups, this develop naturally among individuals. So this often happens in workplace or social settings. So people seek companionship, support, and social interactions. So unlike the formal groups, the informal groups do not have specific goals or structured goals. So they are based on personal relationships and shared interests. An example of this informal groups is when an employee chat together during lunch breaks or when they share personal stories at break. This would be considered as an informal group. So this group helps the environment, the interaction, or people to have social bonds and have a sense of belonging. So now let's talk about the formation of groups naman. So number 1, we have the deliberate formation groups. So these groups are intentionally created to achieve specific objectives. These are formed with a clear purpose and structured roles to ensure that goals are met efficiently. So in here we have work task group, client groups, legislative groups, mediating groups, and problem solving groups. So first, we have the work task groups here. So these groups are formed to perform tasks efficiently by combining efforts, behavior, and resources of their members. So an example of this is an expedition group of a mayor sent to plan or oversee a particular project or event. And number 2, we have the solving groups. So these groups are created to find solutions to specific issues. So this is often believing that collective decision making is more effective than individual problem solving. So an example of this is commissions, task forces, and committees that are formed to solve challenges or create plans. So number 3, we have the social action groups. So these groups are formed by members with the goal of influencing social change or the course of events in society. So an example of this is the political parties, trade association, or civil rights groups advocating for reforms. And on number 4, we have the mediating groups. So these groups act as an intermediaries to coordinate and resolve conflicts or facilitate processes. So an example of this is those coordinating councils, interdepartmental committees, or arbitration boards that bring different parties together to solve problems. So number 5, we have the legislative groups. So these groups are formed to create and enforce policies, laws, or rules. So an example of this is the government legislative bodies, boards of directors, or other policy-making organizations. So lastly, we have the client groups. So these are formed to provide services to groups of individuals, assuming that addressing groups' needs collectively is more efficient than focusing on individuals separately. So an example of this is the social service programs treating families or communities as groups instead of individuals for better service delivery. So number 2, the spontaneous formation groups. So these groups are formed naturally because people enjoy associating with others or expect to gain satisfaction, companionship, or shared experiences. So these groups are not created with a specific purpose, but they emerge from social interaction and shared interests. So an example of this is those social clubs, friendship cliques, and those juvenile gangs. For instance, a group of friends forming a social club because they enjoy spending time together, or a group of young people bonding and forming a gang in response to shared interests or needs. So number 3, lastly, in our formation of groups, the externally designated groups. So these groups are formed when society or external forces classify individuals into groups based on certain characteristics. So these groups are created not by personal choice, but by the way others view or categorize them. So the classification can be based on the factors like age, gender, ethnicity, education, religion, physical feature, or other shared traits. So, example of this is street families or other marginalized groups that are grouped together by external social conditions. So, another example is those groups formed based on race, gender, or socioeconomic status, or example of externally designated groups. So, these groups are often treated as homogeneous regardless of individuals' differences due to societal perceptions.
Ang social group o group structure ay ang pattern o sistema ng ugnayan ng mga tao sa isang grupo. Kasama dito ang mga roles kung ano ang ginagawa o tungkulin ng bawat isa. Norms naman, mga dapat sundin o ugali ng grupo, at networks, ugnayan o relasyon ng bawat miyembro. Like for example, sa family, ang magulang ang tagapagtaguyod at gumagabay. Ang mga anak naman ang inaalagaan at tinuturuan. Ang norms nila ay ang paggalang sa nakakatanda, pagtutulungan sa gawaing bahay at pagsasama-sama tuwing pagkainan. Ang network naman nila, relasyon ng bawat miyembro, halimbawa malapit na ugnayan ng mga magulang sa anak o magkakapatid. Sa sports team naman, ang roles nito ay ang coach ang nagbibigay ng strategy, captain ang namumuno at players ang nagpo-perform sa laro. Pagsunod sa training, schedule at teamwork sa laro at pagiging sportsmanlike ang kanilang norms o kanilang normal na ginagawa. Ang network naman nila ay samahan ng teammates, tiwala sa coach at suporta ng fans. In social work context naman, domestic violence support group, ang roles nito ay si facilitator ang namumuno sa discussion, participants ang nagbabahagi ng kanilang karanasan at counselor ang nagbibigay ng advice. Ang norms nila ay ang pagiging bukas sa pakikinig, pagbibigay ng respeto sa kwento ng iba at pagiging supportive. Sa relasyon, sa pagitan ng mga miyembro na nagbibigay ng emotional support at encouragement sa isa't isa ang kanilang network. Ipinapakita dito kung paano nagkakaintindihan at nagkakaisa ang isang grupo para maging maayos ang takbo nito. Si size po ay ang laki ng isang grupo ay tumutukoy sa bilang ng mga tao na kasali dito. At ito ay ang malaking effect sa komunikasyon at ugnayan ng mga miyembro. Ang mga mas maliliit na grupo ay mas madaling pamahalaan dahil mas mabilis na nakikilala ng leader o facilitator ng ang bawat miyembro. Pati na rin ang kanilang mga needs o pangangailangan. Mas madali ring obserbahan ang kanilang interaction at magbigay ng mabilisang aksyon kung kinakailangan. Like ang halimbawa, kung ikaw ay nasa isang study group na binubuo ng 3 members, mas maayos ang daloy ng komunikasyon, ang bawat isa ay mas active, nakikilahok at madali para sa leader na subaybayan ang mga progress. May malinaw na mga tungkulin ang bawat isa kaya mas epektibo ang pagtutulungan. Sa kabilang banda, mas malaking group tulad ng advocacy group na may 15 members ay mas maganda para sa mga mas malalaking proyekto. Mas marami ang idea at resources na nabibigay, kaya mas malawak ang kayang gawin ng groups tulad ng pagsasagawa ng community campaign. But may posibilidad pa rin na maganap ang social loafing. Ito ay ang ugali ng ilang miyembro na maglaan ng mas konting effort dahil iniisahan nilang ibang kasi inaasa nila sa ibang tao na gagawa ang karamihan ng trabaho. To be more deeper, sa maliliit na grupo, mas personal ang ugnayan, kaya mas madaling magkaroon ng pagtitiwala at aktibo participation. Sa malalaking grupo naman, habang may benefits sa dami ng miyembro, mahirap tiyakin na lahat ay nag-cooperate ng pantay-pantay. Kaya mahalaga magkaroon ng malinaw na system ng pamamahala at pagpapalakas ng motivation para maiwasan ng social loafing at mapanatili ang pagiging produktibo ng group. Functional roles or role structure refer to the socially recognized expectation of behavior assigned to each group member based on their position or role in the group. This role helps organize the group's tasks and ensure each member contributes to achieving the group's goal. Like for example, in a group project, ang mga members ay often take on specific roles. Ito yung leader oversees the group, siya yung nagpa-plan tasks and ensure that work is progressing smoothly. For example, they set deadlines for tasks and resolve conflicts. Si researcher naman, siya yung nag-gather ng information or data na kailangan for the project, such as finding credible sources online or in a library. So si presenter, siya yung nagdi-delivers ng final presentation to the class and siya yung nag-explain ng group works clearly and effectively. Si writer naman, siya ang nagpre-prepare ng final output such as drafting the report or creating a PowerPoint presentation. These roles are essential because they create structures within the group, make it easier to divide tasks and avoid confusion. When each member knows their role, it increases accountability and efficiency. However, if a member fails to fulfill their role, the researcher doesn't find sufficient data, the group's performance may suffer. So, si functional roles ay nag-help to balance responsibilities and ensure the group works as a cohesive unit. When everyone performs their roles well, the group is more likely to succeed in objectives. Task role refers to the specific behavior or actions of group members that are focused on helping the group complete its work and achieve its objectives. So, itong roles na ito are essential for ensuring that the group remains productive, organized, and goal-oriented. Members performing task roles often take charge of planning, organizing, and gathering information or assessing progress. They contribute directly to the group's success by ensuring tasks are completed efficiently and meet the required standards. Task roles help maintain focus, promote accountability, and enable collaboration within the group. So, example, A, initiating. Initiating involves taking the lead to start discussion or suggest new approaches for tackling the group's problem or achieving its goal. Etong role na ito ay nai-ensure that the group doesn't fall into stagnation and encourages creative thinking. Initiators often set the tone for productive brainstorming by breaking the ice or offering a fresh perspective. They inspire members to think beyond the obvious and explore possibilities that others might hesitate to bring up. Initiating is also about showing leadership and courageous, as proposing new ideas requires confidence and willingness to face potential criticism. Without initiators, the group might struggle to generate momentum or innovative. B. Information seeking. Information seeking is the process of actively asking questions to fill the gaps in the group's knowledge. Itong role na ito ay may ensure that decisions are based on solid data rather than assumptions or incomplete understanding. Information seekers help the group avoid errors by probing for specifics such as verifying the credibility of a source or the feasibility of a plan. They also challenge the group to consider overlooked details or explore deeper aspects of an issue. Itong role na ito ay nag-foster as a culture and not a curiosity and thinking, as it encourages members to think analytically and validate their ideas with evidence. C. Information giving. Ito yung nagpo-focus on providing accurate, relevant, and valuable details that the group can use to make decisions. Itong role na ito ay often involve sharing personal experiences, research findings, or fact from reliable reliable sources, information givers, enhance the group's understanding by filling in knowledge gaps and providing context for discussion. They contribute to building a shared knowledge base, which is crucial for effective decision making. Itong role na ito also establishes trust within the group as members come to rely on information giver for clarity and support. Consistent information giving can elevate the group's confidence in their plans and actions. D. Opinion giving. This expresses a personal beliefs, values, or judgments related to the group's task. Itong role na ito ay nag-a-add depth to the discussion by incorporating subjective perspective which might not emerge from factual information alone. Opinion givers help the group understand emotional, ethical, or cultural dimensions of a decision. For example, they might highlight potential social implications of a project or express concern about fairness. This role fosters a democratic environment where diverse viewpoints are naririnig or heard, promoting inclusivity. It also challenges the group to reflect on their decision from different angles, leading to more thoughtful and balanced outcome. Sa letter E naman, clarifying ensures that every members of the group fully understand the discussion or task at hand. Itong role na ito ay nag-involve asking for explanations, paraphrasing points to check for accuracy, or breaking down complex ideas into simpler terms. Clarifiers play a critical role in preventing misunderstanding that could derail the group's progress. They also act as a mediators, helping to resolve confusion or conflicts arising from miscommunication. By ensuring everyone is on the same page, clarifiers enhance collaboration and promote inclusivity, especially for members who might be hesitant to speak up. Sa letter F naman, elaborating is about expanding on ideas or suggestions to make them clearer, more detailed, or more actionable. Itong role na ito ay nag-involve providing examples, exploring potential application, or adding context to enrich the discussion. Elaborators help the group see the bigger picture and understand practical implication of their ideas. This role is very vital for developing well-rounded solution and ensuring that plans are feasible. Elaborators are also encouraged deeper thinking by prompting the group to explore what-if scenarios or consider alternative approach. Sa G naman, coordinating focuses on organizing and linking different ideas or contribution within the group. This role ensures that all efforts are aligned and directed toward the common goal. Coordinators help the group avoid redundancy or conflict by creating a clear structure for discussion and tasks. They might summarize key points, highlight connections between ideas, or assign roles to ensure everyone is contributing effectively. Coordinators are also promote harmony by bridging gaps between conflicting opinions, fostering a sense of unity and collaboration. Sa H, orienting. Si orienting po ay involves guiding the group by ensuring discussions and actions remain focused on the group's objectives. This role helps the group avoid distractions or wasting time on irrelevant topics. Orienters often remind the group of their goals, deadline, or priorities, ensuring that efforts are purposefully and aligned. This role also involves raising critical questions about the direction the group is taking, such as whether they are addressing the most important issues or making progress effectively. By making focus on, orienters contribute to the group's productivity and success. And second to the last, testing. Testing is about confirming the group's readiness to make a decision or take action. This role involves asking questions to gauge the consensus, ensure all the members agree, and verify that sufficient discussion has occurred. Testing helps prevent rushed or poorly thought out decisions by ensuring everyone is on the same page. It fosters a sense of inclusion as members feel their input has been considered before the group moves forward. Testing also serves as a checkpoint, help na natutulungan the group evaluate whether they have all the necessary information and resources to proceed. And lastly, summarizing. Summarizing involves reviewing and condensing the key points from discussion to provide clarity and ensure everyone has a shared understanding. This role is crucial for maintaining continuity and focus as it allows the group na mag-reflect on what has been accomplished and identify next steps. Summarizers help the group stays organized by keeping track of progress and reminding members of important details. Itong role na ito also promotes efficiency as it reduces the need to revisit previous discussion and ensure na walang critical point are overlooked. Building or maintenance role in a group refer to the behavior exhibited by a member that focus on maintaining the social structure, fostering a positive relationship, and ensuring a group cohesion. Unlike sa task roles that focus on completion of tasks and achieving goals, si building or maintenance role naman ay nag-aim to support the emotional and rational aspect of the group, helping the group function smoothly and harmoniously. Itong role na ito ay na-ensure that members interact positively, resolve conflicts effectively, and collaborate in a supportive environment. We have example A. Encouraging this behavior involves creating a supportive and positive and affirming environment within the group. Members na who take on this role actively promote a sense of inclusivity by being friendly, warm, and responsive to others. They praise others for their ideas, recognize their contribution, and show appreciation, which nakakatulong to build trust and motivation. This encourages members to participate more freely and openly, knowing their ideas and efforts are valued. Encouragement helps create a positive atmosphere where members feel respected and motivated to contribute to the group success. B. Mediating involves managing and resolving conflicts within the group. Itong role na ito ay nag-focus on harmonizing differing opinions or views and finding compromises when disagreement arise. A member in this role ay tumutulong to facilitate understanding between opposing perspective, making sure that lahat ay nakaka-feel ng naririnig sila and valued. By focusing on finding common ground and smoothing out tensions, mediators help the group remain united and focus on its goal. Itong role na ito is particularly important in maintaining group harmony and preventing conflicts from undermining group cohesion and progress. Number 3, we have gatekeeping. Gatekeeping ensures that everyone has an equal opportunity to participate in the group discussion. Members in this role observe when certain voices might be overshadowed or when certain members are not actively contributing. By drawing attention to those who have not yet spoken or suggesting that everyone take turns to speak, gatekeepers ensures balanced participation. This role helps prevent any single individual or small group from dominating the conversation, ensuring that diverse ideas are heard and considered. Gatekeeping contributes to inclusivity and fairness within the group, which nakaka-enhance to collaborative problem solving. Next is standard setting. Standard setting involves expressing and establishing the norms, guidelines, and expectations sa group. Itong standard might relate to the group's conduct, how decisions should be made, how members should communicate, or ethical expectations. Members in this role ay tumutulong to define how the group will function, kung ano ang values na i-guide nila with their interaction, and what behaviors will be expected. By clearly establishing the standards early on, members set foundation for effective collaboration and create a structured environment where expectations are clear with which reduces confusion and potential conflicts. The next is following role involves being receptive and accepting of others' ideas and contributions. Members who take on this role often support the direction of the group by agreeing with others, passively accepting ideas, or observing as attentive listeners. They provide a sense of agreement and stability within the group, reinforcing the ideas and the decision made by others. Though passive in nature, this role is essential in maintaining group unity and demonstrating respect for others' perspective. Followers contribute to the group dynamics by actively listening, which encourages open dialogue and enhances group cohesion. Next is relieving tension. Relieving tension involves diffusing negative emotion and stress within the group. A member in this role works to ease discomfort, reduce frustration, and refocus the group's energy towards more positive topic. By lightening the mood, such as members help avoid escalation of tension or negative emotions that could disrupt the group's collaboration. This role is important in keeping the atmosphere positive and productive, particularly during stressful or challenging discussion. Tension relief might come in a form of humor, offering a fresh perspective, or suggesting a break when needed. In conclusion, building or maintenance role ay focused on ensuring a harmonious and supportive group dynamic. Itong roles na ito, such as encouraging, mediating, gatekeeping, standard setting, following, and relieving tension, ay lahat sila nagko-contribute to the emotional and social well-being of the group. By fulfilling this role, members help maintain group cohesion, ensures fair participation, and resolve conflicts constructively, which ultimately leads to a more effective and collaborative group environment. These maintenance behavior are just as crucial as task-oriented actions for achieving success within a group. That's all po, and thank you for listening.
Good day everyone, I am Baisini Gibonin, and today I will be discussing the continuation of topic of the last reporter. So now, let's proceed. So we have personal roles. So these personal roles refers to the behaviors of group members that focus on personal needs rather than the group's needs. These roles often disrupt the group's flow and effectiveness. So, in simple words, mas pinapabor pa ng isang grupo or ng member na yun ng kanilang personal na pangangailangan kaysa sa pangangailangan ng grupo nila. So, we have 6 examples. So, first is the blocking. So, dito sa blocking, ito na yung pagbablock o pagharang nila sa progress ng kanilang grupo sa pamamagitan ng pag-focus sa mga bagay na wala namang kaugnayan sa pinag-uusapan nila. Like for example, pag ang isang membro ay paulit-ulit na bumabalik sa usapan na hindi naman mahalaga sa grupo. Like sinisingit nila yung usapan na hindi naman nagbe-benefits yung grupo. Kumbaga, out of the topic. So, yun yung blocking. So, next naman is yung sa aggression. So, dito sa aggression, ito na yung paninisi or pagiging negative sa mga miyembro ng walang sapat na dahilan. Like, for example, pag ang isang membro ay sinasabing laging mali ang idea mo. Like, kumbaga, pag nag-share ka lang ng idea mo, pero yung isang member na yun, parang kinikriticize niya yung idea na shinare mo. Kaya nagdudulot ito ng hidwaan or hindi pagkakaunawaan ng isang grupo. So, next naman is the seeking recognition. So, dito naman sa seeking recognition, ito naman yung isang individual na gusto laging pinapansin kaya nagmamayabang o gumagawa siya ng eksena para lang mapansin siya. So for example, pag ang isang individual or ang miyembro sa isang grupo ay laging pinupuri ang sarili kahit hindi naman siya tumutulong sa proyekto. Like for example, parang hindi siya parang pero nangyayari din ito in real life. May mga member talaga sa isang grupo na kahit wala naman silang ginagawa is pinupuri nila yung sarili nila like, ay, may nagawa ako. Ito yung nagawa ko kaya deserve ko to. So yun yung sa seeking recognition. Kumbaga, gusto niya laging pinapansin siya or gumagawa siya ng eksena para mapansin. So, next naman is yung special pleading. So, dito naman sa special pleading, no, ito naman yung pagpipilit ng sariling opinion na hindi naman angkop o makakatulong sa grupo. Like for example, pag ang isang miyembro ay pilit na susunod ang sariling idea na hindi naman nauugnay sa issue. So, dito naman, no, in simple terms, dito sa special pleading, ito na yung isang tao na sinisiksik niya yung idea niya kahit na out of the context na yung binibigay niyang idea. So, yun yung sa special pleading. So, next naman, meron tayong withdrawing. Ito na yung pagiging tahimik o hindi aktibo sa grupo. Like, for example, hindi naman nawawala talaga sa isang grupo na may isang miyembro na hindi talaga nagbibigay ng opinion o parang hindi interesado sa discussion. Kasi, minsan kasi yung tao na yun, hindi niya alam kung paano niya i-form yung words na gusto niyang sabihin. At minsan, pag may sinishare siya, parang hindi rin napapansin. Kaya, mas pinipili na lang niya na i-withdraw ang kanyang sarili kesa mag-socialize sa isang grupo. Parang ito na yung tinatawag nilang introvert, yung pagiging tahimik. So, yun yung withdrawing. So, dito naman, last sa example ng personal role is meron tayong dominating. So, dito sa dominating naman, ginagamit ng isang tao ang kanilang boses para manipulahin ang iba. Like, for example, dito sa dominating is yung leader. Kasi, yung leader ang nagbibigay ng pagkakataon sa ibang grupo or sa iba na magsalita. Kumbaga, siya yung nag-i-insist sa mga members niya na magsalita sila para magsalita or maghingi or magbigay ng kanilang idea. So, yun yung dominating. So, that's all for the personal role. Next naman, meron tayong communication structure. So, dito sa communication structure, ito yung process ng pagpapalitan ng impormasyon sa grupo gamit ang wika, galaw, o iba pang paraan. Like, ang tamang komunikasyon ay mahalaga upang maging maayos ang takbo ng grupo. So, meron tayong tatlong types of communication, no? Unang-una is yung maypole or mypole. Dito naman sa maypole is, ito na yung, in simple words, is yung leader. Kasi, yung leader ang sentro ng communication. Kaya lahat ng usapan or mga decision ay always dumadaan sa leader. Like, for example, no, sa isang therapy group, ang lahat ay direktang nakikipag-usap sa therapist o facilitator. So, yun yung maypole. So, next naman, we have the round robin. So, dito naman sa round robin, kung ang maypole is more siya sa leader, ang round robin naman is more on members siya. So, ang round robin ay ang bawat miyembro ay may pantay na pagkakataong magsalita. So, for example, sa isang group project, bawat miyembro ay dapat or may responsibility na magbigay ng update tungkol sa kanilang contribution. Kumbaga, lahat ng members ay dapat socialize or dapat mag-participate sa grupo. So, next naman is yung sa hot seat. So, sa hot seat naman, ito naman yung isang miyembro sa grupo ang nasa center ng talakayan o yung pag-uusap habang ang iba naman ay nagbibigay ng feedback. Like for example, dito sa hot seat is ang isang miyembro ay nagpe-present ng idea habang ang iba naman ay nagtatanong o nagbibigay ng suggestion or suggestion. So, yun yung hot seat. Kumbaga, siya yung nagpe-present. Tapos, habang nagpe-present siya, yung mga member niya is nagbibigay or nagque-question sila sa kanya kung ano yung ikakabuti niya, ano yung magiging benefits. Yun yung hot seat. So, next naman, meron tayong affection structure. So, dito sa affection structure, ito naman is yung tumutukoy sa emotional na interaction ng mga membro ng grupo. So, sa ganitong paraan, makikita kung paano sila nagiging malapit sa isa't isa o kung paano sila nagkakaroon ng alitan or hindi pagkakaunawaan. So, meron tayo ditong dalawang key factors. Yung una is yung natural attraction. So, dito sa natural attraction, ito na yung nature na pagkahumaling or pagiging affectionate ng mga tao sa kapwa dahil sa pagkakatulad ng ugali or interest o yung tinatawag nila ngayon na ka-vibes or ka-humor. So, example nito is pag ang dalawang membro ay may pagkapareho sila ng gusto. Like, both yung dalawa na yun is mahilig sa community service, ay agad silang nagiging magkaibigan kasi parang nagkukuan yun siya. Ano nga tawag dun? Nag-click-click yung dalawa na yun. O yun yung natural attraction. So, second naman is yung unconscious needs of members. So, dito naman sa unconscious needs of members is hindi sinasadyang pagpapakita ng personal na pangangailangan sa interaction ng grupo. So, dito naman is yung example nito is yung pag ang isang miyembro ay naghahanap ng gabay or instruction mula sa leader dahil namimiss niya ang pagmamalasakit ng magulang. Kumbaga, dito sa unconscious needs of members naman kasi may iba talagang members na hindi naman nila sinasadya pero parang nakukuha or parang nagsisik sila ng needs sa ibang members. So, yun yung sa unconscious needs of members. Meron naman tayo dito na 3 patterns of interpersonal relations. So, first is yung pairs. So, sa pairs, parang madali lang man to siya intindihan. No? Yung pairs, ito na yung dalawang member na laging magkasama at nagtutulungan. And second naman is yung triads. From the word itself is 3. 3 miyembro. Tapos ito naman, pwede siyang yung dalawang member ay magkaaway at ang isa sa 3 na yun ay siya yung parang nag-i-insist or tumutulong sa dalawa na nag-away na yun na para pagbutihin silang dalawa. And third naman is yung isolates. So, dito sa isolates naman is ito na yung mga miyembro na bihirang makipag-ugnayan sa iba o hindi kasali sa mga aktibidad ng grupo. Or kumbaga ito na yung mga tao na ini-isolates nila yung kanilang sarili o yung para mga introvert, ganun. So dito naman, may binigay akong picture dito. I provide some pictures. Ito na yung tinatawag nating sociometry or sociogram. Para din siyang ecomap and genogram. Pero itong sociogram is ginagamit ito para alamin kung paano magkakaugnay ang emosyon na relasyon ng mga miyembro at ng grupo. Para itong mapa na nagpapakita kung sino ang malapit sa isa't isa at sino ang naiiwan. So, yun yung sociogram. Next naman is yung power structure. So, ang power structure ay tumutukoy naman ito sa anyo ng kapangyarihan sa loob ng grupo. Ang pagkakaroon ng malinaw na power dynamics ay nakakaapekto sa paraan ng paggawa ng desisyon sa grupo. So, in simple words is ito na yung leader ng isang grupo. So, example, sa isang meeting, ang may posisyon sa grupo ang laging pinapakinggan kaysa sa mga miyembro na tahimik lang. So, yun yung power structure. So, meron tayong dito na types of power. First is the legitimate power. So, dito sa legitimate power, ito ay ang kapangyarihan or influence na nakabatay sa posisyon o papel ng isang tao sa grupo. For example, ang isang leader or chairperson ay may legitimate power dahil siya or sila ang may responsibilidad na magpasya sa grupo. In simplified idea, ako ang leader, kaya ako ang susundin. Next naman, meron tayong reward power. So, ito naman ay ang kapangyarihan na nakabatay sa kakayahang magbigay ng reward o mag-iwas sa punishment sa kanilang members. So, for example, pag ang isang manager sa grupo ay nagbibigay ng incentives para sa mga miyembrong magaling magtrabaho. Like, kung susunod ka, may reward kang matatanggap. So, yun yung sa reward power. Kasi minsan pag ang tao talaga nakakakinig sila or parang pinupush sila na gawin mo to kasi pag ginawa mo to may reward ka sa akin. So yun yung sa reward power. And next naman is we have the coercive power. So dito naman sa coercive power, ito ay ang kapangyarihan or influence na nakabase sa pananakot o parusa para pilitin ang iba na sumunod. Like for example, ang isang member ng grupo ay nagbabanta na alisin ang iba sa proyekto kung hindi nila gagawin ang trabaho. So, in simple words, sa coercive power is parang ginagamit nila yung kanilang posisyon para takutin ang members nila na para sumunod sa mga inuutos nila. Like, kung hindi ka sumunod, may masamang mangyayari. Yun yung parang pinaparating ng coercive power. So, next naman, we have the referent power. So, dito naman sa referent power, ito ay ang kapangyarihang nanggagaling sa pagiging popular or well-liked ng isang tao sa grupo. Kumbaga, ito na yung pag ang isang tao ay famous, parang mas sinusunod nila yung, like, meron akong example dito sa referent power, pag ang isang miyembro magaling makisama o makibagay, ng lahat ay nagiging influential kahit walang formal na position. So, ganito talaga, may mga tao din talaga na kahit wala silang posisyon, as long as nakikita ng ibang members nila na yung tao na yun is marunong siyang makisama at palakaibigan. So, in other words, yung referent power is kapag lahat nakikinig sa kanya kasi gusto siya ng grupo. Ay, parang baliktad. Parang dito sa referent power is lahat nakikinig sa kanya kasi gusto siya ng grupo. Ngayon yung tinatawag natin referent power. So, next naman, meron tayong expert power. So, dito naman sa expert power is ito na yung kapangyarihan or influence na nakabase sa kaalaman o kasanayan ng isang tao na mahalaga para sa grupo. For example, ang isang membrong eksperto sa teknolohiya ay nagiging sentro ng desisyon sa mga usapang may kinalaman dito. In other words, kapag may alam siya na wala sa iba, kaya sinusunod siya. Yun yung expert power. Like sa leader din, pag may alam ka na hindi alam ng iba, or pag may alam ka na alam ng kagrupo mo na mas makakaganda yun para sa task nyo is susundin kanila. Yun yung sa expert power. Next naman, meron tayong group leadership. Ang group leadership naman ay tumutukoy sa papel ng isang tao na gumagabay at nagbubuo ng mga patakaran, layunin at direksyon ng isang grupo. So sa social work, ang leader ang tumutulong sa grupo na magkaisa, magtrabaho ng maayos at maabot ang kanilang layunin. Meron tayo dito na approaches to leadership. Meron tayong dalawang pangunahing paraan ng pagtingin sa leadership na tumutukoy kung paano nagiging leader ang isang tao. So first, we have the trait approach. So dito sa trait approach ay nagsasabing ang mga leader ay ipinapanganak, hindi ginagawa. Naniniwala ito na may likas na katangian o talento ang isang tao na magpapahintulot sa kanya na maging mahusay na leader. Tinatawag din itong great man o great woman theory. Like for example, ang isang charismatic leader ay likas na mahusay sa pakikipag-usap, nagbibigay inspirasyon at humihikayat sa grupo kahit walang formal na pagsasanay. In simplified idea, ang the trait approach is may mga tao talagang isinilang para maging leader dahil sa kanilang natural na abilities. Like for example, si Jose Rizal bilang leader sa kilosang revolusyonaryo dahil sa kaniyang likas na karisma at talino. So second naman is yung sa the position approach. Ang pagmamaraang ito ay tumutukoy sa leadership na nakabase sa kapangyarihan ng posisyon o role sa loob ng isang organisasyon o grupo. Pinag-aaralan din nito ang behavior, pagsasanay at karanasan ng mga leader sa mataas na posisyon. Like for example, ang isang presidente ng isang asosasyon o head ng isang committee ay nagiging leader dahil sa kanilang posisyon at authority na gumawa ng desisyon. In simplified idea, nagiging leader ang isang grupo dahil sa posisyon o tungkulin na hawak niya. Like halimbawa, ang principal ng isang paaralan ay natural na leader dahil sa kanyang opisyal na posisyon. And meron naman tayo dito na leadership style approach. So, ang leadership style approach naman ay isang theory o teorya kung paano ginagampanan ng isang leader ang kanyang tungkulin sa grupo. Tumutukoy ito sa paraan ng pamumuno at epekto ng estilo ng leader sa mga miyembro ng grupo. So sa social work, mahalaga ang estilo ng leader dahil nakaka-apekto ito sa dynamics ng grupo at sa abot ng kanilang layunin. And meron tayo dito leadership types of leadership style. We have the authoritarian leadership. So, dito sa authoritarian leadership, ang leader ay may halos na buong kapangyarihan or influence sa grupo. Siya ang gumagawa ng mga desisyon, nagpaplano, at nagdidikta kung ano ang dapat gawin ng mga miyembro. Siya rin ang nagbibigay ng gantimpala o parusa. Ang grupo ay umaasa sa leader para sa susunod na hakbang din. So, for example, dito sa authoritarian leadership is kapag ang isang team leader sa project na nagsasabi sa mga member kung ano ang eksaktong gagawin ng walang konsultasyon. Meron din tong positive and negative sa grupo. Yung positive ng effect nito is mas nagiging mabilis ang paggawa ng desisyon at maayos ang sistema kung ang grupo ay hindi pa gaano kaalam. Ang negative side naman nito is maaring magresulta ito sa kawalan ng kalayaan ng mga miyembro at mababa ang motivation. So, yun yung negative and positive ng authoritarian leadership. Meron naman tayo dito ang democratic leadership. So, dito sa democratic leadership, ang leader ay hinihikayat ang lahat ng miyembro na magbigay ng kanilang opinion at aktibong makilahok sa mga desisyon. Ang layunin ay magtulungan at magbuo ng malakas na kooperasyon sa grupo. Like, halimbawa, sa isang community, leader na nagkakaroon ng open forum para sa mga idea ng lahat bago gumawa ng desisyon. And gaya ng authoritarian leadership kanina, meron din itong positive and negative side. Yung positive side naman ito is ito na yung nagpapalakas ng teamwork at motivation dahil nararamdaman ng mga members na mahalaga ang kanilang boses. At ang negative side naman ito is maaaring maging mabagal ang proseso ng paggawa ng desisyon kung maraming idea ang kailangang pag-usapan. Yun yung positive and negative side of democratic leadership. And next naman, meron tayong laissez-faire leadership. So, dito naman sa laissez-faire leadership is ang leader ay nagbibigay ng pinakamaliit na input o pakikialam. Like, konti lang yung pakikialam nila sa kanilang grupo. At hinahayaan ang mga membro na magdesisyon para sa kanilang mga sarili. Ang leader ay nananatili sa background at nagbibigay lamang ng gabay kung kinakailangan. So, halimbawa, like sa school, ang isang teacher ay hinahayaan ang kanyang mga estudyante na gumawa ng proyekto nang walang gabay at makialam lamang kung may tanong. Nakikialam lamang sila kung ang isang estudyante nila is may question sa kanila. And gaya din ng kanina, meron din itong negative and positive side. Yung positive side naman nito is nakakapagbigay ng kalayaan sa mga member upang maging creative at independent. Ang negative side naman nito is maaaring magsiresulta sa kaguluhan o mabagal na progreso kung walang malinaw na direksyon ang isang grupo. Next naman, meron tayong the distributed functions approach. Ang distributed function approach naman is ito yung pamamaraan kung saan tumututol sa great man theory at naniniwalang bawat miyembro ng grupo ay maaaring maging leader depende sa situation. Ang pagiging leader ay hindi nakabase sa posisyon o likas na katangian, kundi sa pangangailangan ng grupo sa particular na oras. Yung koal is leadership ay isang kolektibong responsibility at ang sinuman sa grupo ay maaring mag-step up upang gampanan ang papel ng leader kung kinakailangan. For example, no, sa isang volunteer group, isang member ang maaaring mag-organize ng schedule habang ang iba ay tumututok sa logistics. Next naman, meron tayong group standards. Dito naman sa group standards are the rules or norms that everyone in the group agrees to follow. This help everyone on the same page and create a respectful environment. For example, here or in social workers, no, they help set these standards to create a safe space for people that feel respected. They remind group members of these standards and adjust any behavior that goes against them. For example, no, following instructions set by the group members. O ito na yung pagfa-follow ng mga member sa mga instruction ng kanilang group leader. So, yun yung sa group standards. So, next naman, meron tayong group cohesion. So, dito naman sa group cohesion, no, this is the feeling of belonging and loyalty among group members. So, dito, pag ang isang group is merong magandang cohesion, ang mga members ay nag-enjoy na mag-work together and feel connected. Like, as social workers naman, they encourage group cohesion by building trust, cooperation, and support among members, which helps everyone feel they're part of something special. Like for example, no, people support each other and they also cheer other success and help each other through challenges. Yun yung sa group cohesion. And next naman, meron tayong group conflict, no? So dito sa group conflicts, these happen when members disagree or misunderstand each other. This can sometimes be helpful by bringing out different ideas, but they need to be managed well. So, as a social workers, no, they help groups resolve conflicts in a peaceful way, like encouraging open discussions to understand each other's views and find solution that works for everyone. Like for examples, no, when someone feels hurt by a comment and they discuss it with the group to resolve the issue. So yun yung sa group conflict. And that's all for my report. I hope that may natutunan kayo sa akin. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I am Hanan Arjanaton, and now I am going to discuss about the classification of social process. Now that we already know what is social process, now let's discuss its classification para maintindihan natin how people, maintindihan natin ng maayos how people and individuals connect, compete, and influence one another in society. So, first classification of social process is based on formation. So, dito, paano nga ba na-form yung interaction? And in based on formation, we have the universal or basic process. So, when we say universal, ito yung very common to every society. And in universal, napapaloob dito ang competition. So, sabi dito, the most fundamental dissociative social process is competitive or competition kasi nga it tends to separate people rather than bring them together. Kasi when we say competition, nakikipagkompetensya ang mga tao to get something which is limited lang. So halimbawa, in applying a job, of course makikipagkompetensya ka for that job kasi marami kayong mag apply dyan and iilan lang or isa lang ang matatanggap sa inyo. So that's competition. And also, it is non-cooperation. Kasi nga, makikipag-compete ka sa kanila to get that reward. You're not gonna cooperate with them. And also, dito, nakafocus ka lang sa goal or sa reward. And, yes, and sa competition, walang nangyayaring force, but uh, because, kumbaga, they here in competition they achieve the reward or the success by using a fair method. So in competition we have we it have features. So first one is the universal process. So when we say universal process, it means that competition is, it happens, nangyayari siya everywhere. Sabi nga dito, ang pinaka-common na social process that is present or meron lahat ng societies is the competition. Whether it's civilized or uncivilized, rural or urban or traditional, and also ang competition uh, it's among all the classes of people, like the doctors, engineers, workers, students, and farmers. Nandyan ang competition. Or nangyayari dyan ang competition. Second, and number two, it is continuous process. Competition is continuous process. Ibig sabihin, hindi ito natatapos. Kasi nga, after mo matapos or after mo makuha yung isang goal, meron na namang nandyan. Kasi nga, sabi dito, it never ending ang wants ng ang ambitions or wants ng mga tao. The desire for wealth is never ends. Kaya that's what makes competition a continuous process. So let's give an example. Like halimbawa in sport, after gaining after gaining a title for championship, it doesn't stop there. Kasi nga may masaset na naman na goal, another goal na naman ang gusto mong ma-achieve, aiming for new records or new titles na naman. So, next, number three, unconscious process. The people who are involved in the process of competition are masyadong focused sa goal nila that they do not think, hindi nila na naiisip yung sarili nila. Hindi na sila nakafocus sa sarili nila. Kumbaga, yung attention nila is fixed na doon sa reward or sa uh, or or in achieving that success. Like halimbawa, for instance, a student competing for the top, gusto niya maging top. So what they are gonna do? They sacrifice their meal, their sleep. Just isa-sacrifice nila yung pagkain nila, pagtulog nila while studying late at night. Kasi iniisip nila is paano sila makakakuha ng high score to be top at class. So, yun yung sinasabing unconscious process. So, number four is impersonal process. So, sa impersonal process, meaning, yung mga competitors, walang pake sa isa't isa. Hindi mo na kailangan pang kilalanin sino yung makakalaban mo because your attention is nasa reward lang. Kumbaga, nakafocus ka lang sa reward. Like, for example, in applying a job, di ba marami kayong mag-apply, which is, yun, magiging kakompetensya mo sila. So, you don't need to, kilalanin mo pa sila isa't isa. Hindi na. Because nakafocus ka lang how to be hired in that job. Kung paano ka matatanggap sa job na yun. So, number five, the last one, always governed by norms. So, in competition, it is regulated by rules. It is regulated by rules para ma-ensure yung fairness. So, ang competitor should use a fair means to achieve success. Kasi by this, mapaprevent yung cheating, dishonesty, or harm to others. Just like what I've said kanina sa definition ng competition, it doesn't use force but only fair method. Like for instance, di ba sa sports, yung mga athletes is may sunusunod silang yung mga rules when competing, di ba? So that's what does it mean na ang competition is always governed by norms. So let's now proceed to the forms of competitions. So first, we have political competitions. So halimbawa na dito is yung mga political parties during election. So di ba maraming parties ang maglalaban-laban competing for the position. So yun yung sinasabing political competition. Next one is social competition. This competition naman is between individuals based on talent, ability, and capacity. Usually nangyayari to sa school, workplace, or sa iba pa na kung saan yung mga tao, they strive to prove their capabilities. Halimbawa nito is sa school, a student competing for academic honors. So, kumbaga like being a top one or a valedictorian. So, yun yung social competition. So, next one is economic competition. Ito naman is nangyayari in corporate or in job. Like halimbawa, sa job competition, people applying for limited number of job opening. Like, di ba, maraming mag-apply for a job, but then limited lang yun. So, makikipag-competition ka sa maraming mag-apply sa job na yun. Another one is in business competition. Like yung mga kumpanya na nagko-kompetensya, let's say the Coca-Cola and Pepsi company na that is competing when it comes in dominating the soft drinks in market. So that is the economic competition. So next one is the cultural competition. Dito naman is when two cultures try to outshine each other. Kumbaga dito, like one culture saying na mas superior sila sa ibang cultural tradition. Kumbaga mas superior yung cultural traditions, beliefs, and practices nila na meron sila over the other cultures. Like halimbawa, let's say a countries promoting their unique cultural events globally. Like sa Pilipinas, the Sinulog Festival versus the Thailand Songkran Festival. So yun yung sinasabing cultural competition. So next one is, or the last one is the racial competition. Dito naman is focuses on physical and biological differences between races or ethnic group. Like, they outshine each other. Like, kung sino yung mas superior dominance na group. So, uh, kumbaga, nakikipagkumpantaan sila kung sino yung mas angat sa kanila, kung sino yung mas angat na ethnic group, ganun. So, di ba, sa universal or basic process, napapaloob ang competition. And meron pang isa, which is the conflict that we are going to discuss now. So, ano nga ba ang conflict? Conflict is the more intense and personal version of competition. Dito, instead of competing with others and hayaan sila na makipag-compete sa iyo to gain that reward na gusto mo and gusto din nila, in conflict, hindi ganon. But here in conflict, papahinahin mo yung kalaban mo, you will try to eliminate them because of really wanting of that reward. Darating sa punto na mawawala sa focus mo yung reward because magiging mas focus ka on frustrating your rivals to stop them in achieving the same goal or the same reward na gusto mo and gusto din nila. So that is the conflict. So for instance, 'di ba sa competition, like halimbawa two businesses compete to sell more products using a fair methods. But in conflict naman, it might be the one business or the company might spread false rumors about their kalaban or their rivals to ruin their reputation. So that's how conflict works. So ganun yung conflict. So yun nga, conflict is about struggle or fighting, whether through words, strategies, or even physical action to achieve a goal or a purpose. So now let's discuss its key features. So first, we have the universal process. So conflict, it happens everywhere. Everywhere. It happens in every society. Like and throughout history. Like example, the wars, family feud, or workplace rivalries. So anywhere nangyayari ang conflict, kaya it's universal process. So number two is the conscious process. What does it mean? So meaning people that is involved in process of conflict, they are aware of what they are doing. They are aware of what we are doing. They understand that they understand their action and paano ito maaapektuhan, paano ito nakakaapekto sa iba. Like for example, in political conflict, a politician knowingly spreading negative campaign para masiraan yung kalaban nila. Aware sila sa ginagawa nila. So as the consequences. That's the conscious process. Number three is the personal process. So unlike competition na it is impersonal, here in conflict, it is personal. Meaning, people know or aware of each other. Like halimbawa in politics, again, 'di ba? They know each other, lalo na kapag higher position yung paglalabanan. Like the president, the mayors, ganyan. So, inaalam nila ang isa't isa. Kasi nga, di ba, by that, knowing your rivals, kung kilala mo yung rivals mo, you know, alam mo paano sila i-eliminate, paano mo sila papahinain, mahanapan, alam mo sila paano hanapan ng butas. So, that is the personal process. So, the number four is the intermittent process. So, intermittent process, hindi siya nangyayari regularly, but it happens irregularly. Meaning, mag-aapoy lang yung conflict when the specific issue arise and huhupa na naman siya. Like, halimbawa sa magkapatid, di ba, mag-aaway sila. Like, kumaga mag-aaway sila dahil sa gawaing bahay. But then the next day, magiging okay sila. Magiging magbabati na sila. But when that specific issue, mag-arise na naman yung issue na yun, magka-away na naman sila. Mauulit na naman yung away nila. So, yun yung sinasabi na intermittent process. Hindi siya nangyayari regularly, but it happens irregularly kapag kumbaga nandyan lang yung issue, kaya kumbaga mauulit-ulit yung conflict. So the next one is conflict based on violence. So hindi man lahat ng conflict is might involves the violence or physical violence, but some escalates to it. So halimbawa in non-violent conflict, like a heated debate in political campaign. So walang nangyayaring violence. But let's cite an example in violent conflict. Halimbawa naman is a street protest turning into a riot. So ganun yung kumbaga nagkakaroon ng violence. So also 'di ba, in conflict kasi it involves you are trying to eliminate your rival. I-eliminate mo yung kalaban mo. So you will do everything para lang ikaw yung makakuha ng reward na yun. So what will happen? Gagawin mo ang lahat. So it might involve the violent. Kaya nga nag-i-escalate ang conflict to violence. So as we all know, sa mga political conflict, di ba, may nangyayaring patayan because of really wanting that position. Kaya nagre-result talaga siya into violence. So now we are already done about in universal or basic process. So let's proceed to the derived social process. So when we say this derived social process, dito, ito yung mga interactions that happens as a result of conflict or the competition. Kumbaga, these processes focus on how people adjust, adapt, and resolve disagreements so they can coexist or work together peacefully. So, here in derived social process, first we have the accommodation. So accommodation is, this is when group of people na may conflict or hindi sila okay sa isa't isa find a way to adjust or work together kahit na may issues sila. So, kumbaga, may negotiation between two conflicting parties para ma-compromise sila. So, they do not like each other, but they have to agree to cooperate to move forward. So let's give an example. Sa halimbawa sa school, the kumbaga may group project. So, yung nabuong group is hindi okay. Kumbaga, that groups is, yung mga members, hindi okay sila. May galit sila sa isa't isa. They are awkward. But then, they have to work together. They need to collab for the project to be done. So, yun yung sinasabing accommodation. Even though na hindi sila okay sa isa't isa, they have to work together para ma-achieve, para ma-achieve yung reward, ma-achieve yung success. So, in accommodation, we have forms of accommodation. First is the yielding to coercion. So, dito is like yung weaker party is magigive in na lang to the stronger parties out of fear. Natatakot sila. So, halimbawa nito is a small business na pumayag to unfair deal ng isang big company just to para lang hindi magkagulo, para lang ma-resolve para ma-resolve lang yung conflict. And also wala din kasi lang choice because they are mahina sila. So that is the yielding to coercion. Kumbaga, nag-give up na lang yung mga weaker parties to the strong parties. So number 2 is the compromise. Ito yung sinasabing give and take. Like both sides is magsasacrifice voluntary para ma-resolve yung issue. Like, let's give an example, like a married couple is nag-aaway about kung saan sila titira. Kasi yung isa gusto sa pamilya niya, like gusto sa place ng pamilya niya, and so on the other, gusto niya din sa place ng pamilya niya. But then, what they're gonna to do is to compromise. Para ma-resolve yung issue, ang gawin na nila is manirahan kung saan malayo sa both sides of the family. So, that is the compromise. Kailangan nilang mag-sacrifice. Yan yung sinasabing compromise. So, next one, the number 3 is the tolerance. Ito naman is, kumbaga, tiis-tiis lang. You tolerate each other in a way na iintindihin nyo yung isa't isa. Like, the both parties accept na hindi sila pareho and they have a lot of differences. They have a lot of differences and that's okay, no hard feelings. Yun yung sinasabing tolerance. So, halimbawa, mabigyan tayo ng halimbawa sa tolerance. So, magkapit-bahay with different religions. Respect each other. Kung respect each other practices. Like, halimbawa, yung isang kapitbahay, they stop playing a loud music during the others' prayer, during the prayer time ng kapitbahay nila. So, yung sinasabing tolerance. They know that they are different, so they respect that, iintindihan nila yun. So, yun yung sinasabing tolerance. So, number 4 is the arbitration. And dito naman is may third party na papasok to mediate. So, parang referee siya or judge to settle the conflict. So, halimbawa dito is a professor mediates between two students na ina-accuse nila ang isa't isa na nangongopya during the exam. So the professor there is magme-mediate siya, mapakikinggan niya yung both sides ng dalawang parties, and magde-decision siya ano yung magandang gawin to resolve the conflict. So, yun yung arbitration. May third party na mag-mediate to the both parties na merong disputes or merong conflict. So, that is the arbitration. So next one to the derived social process is the we have assimilation. So assimilation is when people, usually the minority group, is ginagaya nila yung dominant group's culture para mag-blend in. Kaya over time ang nangyayari, they start to act, think and live like the majority group until dumating sa punto na they are no longer different to that dominant group, kasi kumbaga na fully adapt na nila yung way of life ng ginagaya nila, kasi kaya it's permanent, kasi hindi siya kumbaga small changes lang, but then fully adapt na nila yung culture nung ginagaya nila. So let's cite an example. Halimbawa, yung mga ibang immigrant, like a Filipino family that is moving, like let's say the USA, nag-migrant sa USA. At first, yung way of living nila, very Filipino style. Like, kumbaga, they celebrate Christmas, they celebrate Pasko, and a Filipino style. But then, over time, para kumbaga maki-blend in that place, is they try to copy the culture of that place. Kumbaga, they are trying to copy the culture ng lugar na yun. So, ngayon, ang mangyayari, makaka-adapt sila, ma-adapt nila yung kung ano yung meron doon sa place na yun. Like, kumbaga, yun nga, sa USA, that Filipino family, mas celebrate na nila yung Thanksgiving and Halloween. And yung pananalita nila is naiba na, hindi na siya Tagalog, hindi siya Filipino, but it's English. So, yun yung sinasabing assimilation. Yun yung permanent changes siya. Kumaga, na fully adapting. Hindi lang siya sa small changes. So, it's the assimilation. So, the next one is amalgamation. So, amalgamation is, kumbaga, eto yung dalawang tao na like magkaiba yung physical appearances nila, but it become one stock. So, like halimbawa, different races or ethnicities is magmi-mix like through marriage or relationship, tapos magkakaroon ng biological fusion. Kumbaga, yung magkaibang physical traits is magmi-mix and mag-create siya ng new identities. So, yun yung amalgamation. So, halimbawa, sa mixed marriage, a Filipino marrying a American, so makakabuo sila ng new identities. Like, kumbaga yung anak nila is magiging Phil-Am, ganun. So, the next one is acculturation. Sa acculturation is a mutual borrowing between cultures. Unlike sa assimilation na kumbaga i-adapt mo yung cultures ng iba fully. Like mamumuhay na kagaya nung ginagaya mo. ginagaya mo na culture. So, here in acculturation, kumbaga both cultures influence each other without fully dominating. So, kumbaga you will adopt each other culture, but it doesn't mean nakakalimutan mo na yung sarili mong culture. So, yun yung acculturation. So, halimbawa, let's give an example. Halimbawa sa ating mga Filipino. So, dahil sa kahiligan natin manood ng mga K-dramas, so some of their cultures ng mga Korean is like their fashions, foods is na-adapt natin. Kumbaga ginagaya natin. But then we still keep our own culture. Kumbaga, even though na ginagaya natin sila, nagre-remain pa din yung sarili natin, like yung pagkahilig natin sa adobo, di ba, ganun. So that's for the acculturation. So ngayon na na-discuss na natin ano ang napapaloob sa based on formation na classification ng social process, let us now proceed to the based on unity or opposition. In this classification process, in this classification of social process, it depends whether the interactions bring people closer or push them apart. So in base unity or opposition, meron tayong conjunctive social process which is basically about working together and staying united as one. Ang napapaloob dito sa conjunctive social process ang cooperation. So, ano nga ba ang cooperation? Kung ang competition is the most fundamental dissociative social process, ang cooperation naman ay ang most fundamental associative social process because cooperation brings people together. So, the term cooperation has been derived from Latin words co means together and operare means to work. So, cooperation basically means working together, people working together to achieve a common goals. So, we have cooperation can be classified into three types. So, first one is the informal cooperation. So, here in informal cooperation, it is the natural one. Kumbaga, natural lang yung pagtutulungan ng mga tao. So, halimbawa dito is the Boholanos Dayong, which is, here is, they help each other during the funerals or the celebrations. And another one is yung bayanihan na kung saan nagtutulungan yung mga tao, voluntary, nagtutulungan yung mga tao whenever they are in need. Nagtutulungan yung mga tao. So, like kumbaga sa province, 'di ba? Tulong-tulong yung mga tao like sa pagbubuhat ng bahay, kapag ililipat siya or ipapatayo. So, yun yung bayanihan. Kumbaga natural lang yung pagtutulungan. That is the informal cooperation. So the next one is the formal cooperation. So ito naman is structured siya. It is formal. So may teamworks ay kumbaga may teamworks that is planado and may process. So ang halimbawa nito is kumbaga a school team planning they are working together for their intramurals event, and each of them is clear yung role nila sa pag-work together nila. Kumbaga may mga specific rules sila kung ano yung specific rules, their functions. Kumbaga, she's the leader, the committees, mga ganun. So, yun yung formal cooperation. Structured siya. It is formal. So, next one is symbiotic cooperation. Here is symbiotic cooperation. Ito naman yung win-win situation. Kumbaga, benefit ang both parties sa nabuong relationship. So, halimbawa, yung mga halimbawa yung mga farmers na gina-share nila yung mga tools nila to each other sa mga ibang farmers for better farming. Kasi, kumbaga, kung wala, yung isang farmer, wala siya, tapos yung isa meron siya. So, magpapahiraman sila, tapos kung siya naman wala, tapos meron siya. So, it is a win-win situation. Kumbaga, mag-benefit sila sa nabuong relationship na yun, nabuong samahan, the cooperation. That is the symbiotic cooperation. Let us now discuss the function of cooperation. So, first, it builds relationship. Nagiging mas closer yung mga the group, the people, the individuals as a team whenever they work together. Kumbaga, nasa-strengthen yung relationship within that group. So, yun yung function ng cooperation. Another one is, it contribute to social stability and order. Kumbaga, it keeps everything organized. And nagiging, wala siyang chaos, walang conflict na nangyayari. So, it is peaceful. Peaceful, ganun. So, next one is cooperation helps people find common ground even Even though na meron sila, even though magkakaiba yung opinions nila, their preferences. So, but then by working together, they can compromise, they can make decision that benefit everyone, that benefit each other. So that is the one of the function of cooperation. So, in the based on unity or opposition is na-discuss na natin ang conjunctive social process, which is napapaloob ito doon sa based on unity or opposition. So ngayon, the other one is what we call disjunctive social process. So what is this disjunctive social process? So this is the interactions that divide people rather than bring them together. Kaya it creates a separation, disunity, or opposition within a group. So halimbawa nito is, kumbaga, yung mga taong magkakaiba, yung mga their values, their beliefs, and they oppose each other, kaya nagkakaroon ng separation, hindi sila nagkakasundo. So yun yung sinasabi na disjunctive social process.